This time on Engine Masters, it's a shootout of power with 2.5-inch dual exhaust versus 3-inch single. You know, some of my favorite tests on Engine Masters are when we get to do things that the viewers have specifically asked for, and that's what this is. It's gonna be 2.5-inch pipes with dual exhaust versus 3-inch pipe on single exhaust. Here's how we're gonna run it. We got both turbo mufflers and straight through muffler designs. First, we are gonna run twice pipes with 2.5-inch exhaust turbos, then we're gonna switch off to straight throughs. Next, we're gonna build a 3-inch single exhaust system with a 3-inch turbo muffler and a 90-degree merge. And then we're gonna change it up to a Y-style merge, and we're gonna try that with both the turbo muffler and the straight through muffler. So you're gonna get a whole bunch of information and data here. Our victim is gonna be right here. This 351 Ford that you've seen before on the show, it is a basic rebuilt short block. Nothing special, cast piston, stock rod, stock crank. You can duplicate this thing easily. And to do that, here's how you're gonna throw it together. You're gonna get a Comp Cams hydraulic roller camshaft. It's the XR282. You're gonna buy some AFR cylinder heads. These are the 165cc inlet runner. And by the way, we've run both the AFR 195s and the 165s on this engine. They make exactly the same power. So buy the cheaper head, the 165. Now up top, we've got a Wyand Stealth dual plane intake manifold. We've got a 750 Holley XP carburetor, and overall this thing adds up to about 9.5 to 1. Now the thing that's different about the engine compared with how we normally test it is that it has shorty headers on it. Normally we would have a full long tube, but I figured there's nobody who's considering running single exhaust who has long tube headers. It just doesn't add up. It doesn't package well underneath the car. And so I figure most of you guys are gonna have shorties like this if you're considering the single exhaust, so that's what we ran. All right, now I'm gonna throw it to my buddy Steve Dulcich in the dyno cell. He's gonna show you how we put together our very first system with the 2.5-inch duals.
Okay, we've got our baseline exhaust system set up on our 351 Ford. Now we've got shorty headers up front feeding these 2.5-inch head pipes, a pair of Summit turbo mufflers following that, and some short tailpipes. So we're gonna take it into the dyno cell and we're gonna get our baseline numbers.
All right, Dulcich showed you our choking dual exhaust that we just put on this thing.
Oh boy.
And our shorty headers. The thing is, earlier in the day, we actually ran the same engine with long tube headers and open exhaust, and it was interesting what we found on the tune-up, putting the full exhaust on it.
It got quite a bit richer from the 3,000 to 4,500, let's say, and then it kind of trimmed itself normal. It wouldn't surprise me if it got a little richer everywhere, but I was surprised that it was actually very similar at the top.
Well, but normally when you put an exhaust system on versus open headers, it does make it richer. So that's something to consider if you go to the drag strip and uncork. Yeah, you might have to rejet if you've got it right to begin with.
And we've got that tuned out, so we're pretty much ready to go, right?
His anxiety is saying, fire it up and run it. All right, we're gonna fire it up, warm it up to 130 degrees of water temp, and make our baseline full with dual exhaust and turbo mufflers. Did you run it yet? It's so quiet.
I love it. The best thing about testing mufflers is how quiet the day is.
Here's our power curve for our baseline. We made 405.3 pound-feet of torque at 4,100 RPM and 414.7 horsepower at 6,400 RPM.
Not as bad as I thought it was going to be.
No, versus the open exhaust and long tubes, that's actually kind of surprising.
Yeah.
What we're gonna do is pull up a test here that's actually from a prior episode, which is this exact same engine, same configuration, different valve covers, and long tube headers and open exhaust. So you can just kind of see the difference that the dual exhaust and mufflers are gonna make on the power curve.
Boom.
Oh.
There you go. Clearly, red lines are open long tubes, black lines are the short tube headers and the full exhaust. So you can see what you're giving up. It's quite a bit.
The engine's identical. other than the exhaust. I mean, it's
100%.
same carburetor, same intake, same everything. It's absolutely identical. So
That's quite a bit.
Big difference, huh?
Yeah, it's a lot. But you can't drive around with open headers, so.
Well, maybe you can't.
Oh. You sometimes.
Right, see? All right, let's see if we can make it a little bit better. I'd like to run out there and throw on some straight through mufflers now. Okay, we're gonna go change the mufflers, be right back. How many guys does it take to change 2 mufflers?
I don't know.
Me and Steve and 1 pork chop. Yeah, that went in fine. Screw it. We're taking off these so-called turbo mufflers, which you cannot see through at all. They have 1 tube that goes in here, and then the exhaust has to come around through another tube right here. Now, what we're installing is a straight-through muffler. You can see right through them. So this is kind of a bonus test. In the middle of dual exhaust versus single, you're also gonna see turbo mufflers versus straight-through on both the duals and on the single exhaust. We're all set up here for a comparison of these straight-through mufflers to what we ran before, which was the turbo mufflers. But before we do that, I kind of want to make a point, which is we always use these cheap Chinese knockoff mufflers. So the thing is, I honestly believe this is going to perform the same right here as an expensive version of the same muffler, but it's the longevity that I wanted to point out probably isn't there. I think you had a real-world example of that.
Yeah, I put those really cheapy turbo mufflers on a truck with like a 450 horsepower engine in 1 month. They were blown out
all the
and
packing.
they were making all kinds of really bad vibration and noises and stuff. So
I'm sold they didn't have Chinese mufflers when I was doing it. So.
Well, I guess the
all
difference
good
would be the knockoff Flowmasters. There's nothing to blow out of them unless they just couldn't weld a baffle in and it comes out. But that is the element that we can't see on the dyno, is the longevity of some of this stuff. But nonetheless, we've got the $40 cheapo Chinese MagnaFlow knockoffs on here, and we're going to find out if they make more power than the Summit turbos. Seems better. I'm not sure how much better.
I think it's pretty close.
So here are our numbers with the straight-through mufflers and the dual exhaust. We made 412.8 pound-feet of torque at 4,200 RPM and 420.5 horsepower at 6,200. Why don't you go ahead and lay over the turbo muffler? I think we'll see it actually did make quite a bit of difference. There you go.
It did.
Remember we were talking about the sound of it down low?
Yeah.
Shows it all right there.
That is a really significant difference. I wouldn't have expected that.
It's really interesting to me about how down here, where there isn't as much airflow through the exhaust, it makes that big of a difference.
I can't tell you why, but what I heard was a slight misfire. You know how sometimes a carburetor will struggle with metering at lower engine speeds? That's almost what it sounded like with the other mufflers on it, and it seemed to clean up here. So,
well, we also noticed that it runs leaner with this muffler than it did with the other one because it's less of a restriction, less back pressure. All right, well, you can see that definitely the straight-through muffler made more power than the turbo, which is no surprise. We saw that before when we did our muffler shootout. But what's going to be interesting now is when we strike this and go to the single 3-inch exhaust. And when we do that, I also want to test turbo versus straight-through to see if it makes a greater difference or not. All right, let's go make 3-inch single exhaust.
I think it would be better.
Steve always goes against logic.
They're very kind of similar. Yeah.
Here we go with our single exhaust with 3-inch tubing, and we'll be testing it with a turbo type muffler. Now, the first test here has got one bank entering the other bank at a perfect 90-degree angle, and I'm thinking that is gonna be hideous for flow, but we're gonna try it out, because most muffler shops will put stuff together like that. So we're gonna try 90-degree, and then we're gonna go in and Y them and see if it makes it any better. Let's fire it up. I like this because it's a test we've never done.
I like it because it's really quiet.
It's really quiet now.
I like it.
But what's your guess on power kill with the 90-degree exhaust merge?
Hardly anything.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm going with Dulcich. I think the increased area maybe kind of hopefully balances
Even though
it
it's
out
merging
some.
like this?
And it might not even be the exhaust that's stopping the power level where it's at.
Okay, we got it all warmed up. We're ready to fire up and run it with the single exhaust with a turbo muffler and the 90-degree merge.
We're like the guys at the muffler shop, Brule, saying, oh, that's not good enough. It's a 3-inch pipe.
I like it when you go to the muffler shop, and what do they always tell you?
You need back pressure.
An engine likes a little back pressure. Well, how about that?
Yeah.
No. Here are your new and not improved power numbers with the single exhaust. 398.9 pound-feet of torque at 4,000 RPM and 374.1 horsepower, all the way up at 6,300. But the real story is going to be when we lay it over. As usual, the curve tells all.
I've never seen three guys smile this much over that huge of a loss in power.
It's hideous. So we're going to show you the single exhaust with the 90-degree merge paired with the 2.5-inch dual exhaust. Oh, fail. Obviously, red lines here are dual exhaust, and the black is the devastating single 3-inch.
We're looking like, 45 horsepower.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, it killed it.
Death. I think with the merge, you're essentially creating a restriction. That pressure coming into the pipe right there has got to be a restriction to flow on that other side of the engine.
Yeah, that exhaust, when it tees, it doesn't know whether it's supposed to go left or right.
Exactly.
I mean, it's got some exhaust helping direct it.
Not only is its flow being backed up by the T, but it's also creating a high pressure area, which is a restriction for the other side.
It is richer, but there's no jet in the world.
There's no fixing
that's going to fix that.
Yeah. Actually, it's a good point to make, though, which is we're seeing that it was running about 12.6 to 1 air-fuel ratio at wide open. It's now 11.6 to 1. So should you choose to actually have this on your car, you might want to look at rejetting your carburetor or tuning your EFI or something, because that is just the worst.
That was a lot of work for such a disappointing outcome.
Well, we have to go work more now. We'll go put that Y in, and I think it's going to help it a ton. I'm counting on the Y to let us win, so let's go install it. Yeah, and this will work. So we can mock it all up.
Let me show you what's going to be key to improving our single exhaust system here. That is going to be this merge. It's a much more streamlined entry into the single portion of the exhaust system. So, Troy, slap that on.
So we're about to fire it up for our very first test with that Y-shaped merge instead of the 90. All right, guys, I have to ask, why?
Why? Why the why?
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 What would happen if it doesn't do anything, Freiburger? How would you explain that away?
The muffler's the restriction? I don't know.
The obvious thing is you have to cam it for the merge.
Oh, that's it.
If you don't cam
You
it
guys
for the
have
merge,
the wrong cam.
Here we go with our first test with that Y-shaped merge and the single 3-inch exhaust. We still have the turbo muffler in place. It doesn't matter.
But it does.
It was a little better, but not good.
It was a lot better.
Was it?
Where I said it was going to be.
I didn't see the torque being any better.
Oh, really?
Really?
I think so.
All right, so our peak numbers with the Y merge are 397.2 pound-feet of torque at 4,000 RPM. And up top, we have 383.5 horsepower at probably 6,200 RPM. The question is, how did it do versus the 90 degree? The peak numbers are lower. Oh, you're saying down here it was better.
Yeah.
So the black line is the Y, the red is the 90. It didn't make the difference I was hoping for. That is weird. You think that's all fuel metering? That's back pressure?
I think it was actually, I could sense almost a misfire because of the restriction with the others, T versus the Y.
Yeah.
And it was just much cleaner rolling in. I could actually hear it, not just see it in the numbers.
You know what I postulate?
I have a postulation as well. Let's hear yours.
I think at low gas velocity, at low RPM, that 90-degree merge, the gas coming out of the other bank can go either way and make reversion worse.
That was my thought too. And then once engine speed comes up, it's actually got enough force coming this way to sort of drag the rest of it that way. That's amazing. Right there is where the Y really shows itself, and up top.
Yeah,
It actually made more. It made almost 10 numbers up top. So the Y is better.
Better.
Yep.
Absolutely.
We just established that that Y merge was in fact way better than the 90-degree merge, especially way down at the bottom and way up at the top. But the whole curve is still ridiculously far down from dual exhaust. So to try and save that a little bit, I want to run out there and remove the turbo muffler and install a straight through muffler and see if it makes a difference.
That'll be quick and easy.
Quick and easy, unless we burn ourselves. Oh wait, Steve Brule. That means burn, doesn't it?
Yes,
that's your
in
job.
French, it does mean burn.
It means burn. Let's go. You ready for my best Joe Friday?
Oh, yeah.
All right, single exhaust. This is your last chance to do the right thing, or I'm gonna throw you in the trash and never look back.
That was pretty good.
Was it pretty good?
Yeah.
Throwing you in the trash can, throwing away the key.
Oh, yeah. It's got a one-away ticket.
This will be our final test. We're gonna do that single exhaust with the Y merge with the straight through muffler. It's kind of the last chance for the single exhaust. What did you do? Did you run it cold?
No,
No?
no. I installed a muffler with Mr. Dulcich.
It made more, well, I'm not saying anything until we look at the curves, because I always open my mouth and then I'm wrong. Let's have a look at the total power.
I think you are going to be shocked. I was watching the numbers fly by, and it was pretty good.
Wow. Okay, we just made more power than we've seen all day with the single exhaust and one straight through muffler. 422.9 pound-feet of torque and 424.5 horsepower. Now, that is better than the dual exhaust straight through mufflers on it. As a matter of fact, let's overlay that. Wow! Look at this. Okay, the red lines are the dual exhaust with the straight through mufflers, and black is single exhaust with the straight.
I know.
Well, it's bigger.
It's not.
The head pipes are. And then it's got a nice clean merge and obviously enough muffler. So it really shouldn't be that shocking.
What it really demonstrates a lot, too, is the difference between the turbo-style muffler and the straight-through. The flow potential difference when there's only one.
Yeah.
With two of them, it doesn't matter all that much. With one,
it really made the difference.
Yeah.
But let's talk a little bit about why the dual versus singles like this. We've got 3-inch pipe going all the way from the header.
Yeah.
Yeah, whereas we had the 2.5-inch before, and that might be the difference there.
And then that merge may not be that bad of a restriction, really, into the 3-inch pipe and out the tailpipe. Boom. Just no crossover. Maybe with the crossover, it would have filled in a little bit of that bottom end that we're seeing lacking there.
We did that test before, and I don't remember the results, but I don't think it was anywhere near this drastic.
my recollection is the H was better, but the X pipe was no better than the H. But the H was better than no crossover at all.
So you're right, that could be a thing also. We have to look at what you just brought up, which is the difference between the straight-through muffler and the turbo muffler with single exhaust. So let's have a look at that. So next up, we're gonna compare the single exhaust with the turbo muffler versus the single exhaust with the straight-through muffler. And that is also a massive change. Wow! Look at that, the difference is even more radical. Red lines are gonna be the turbo muffler and black is the straight-through, nothing else different about it. So that tells you that one muffler cannot handle the flow of all 8 cylinders.
Particularly
if
it's not an adequate muffler. You've got a smaller cross-sectional area, so you better be making use of all of it with a very efficient muffler.
Wow.
Now, a lot of this exhaust stuff I look at and I go, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
It works. And
This is huge. That makes a big difference.
Yeah.
How much power does the single exhaust with the good muffler make versus the dual exhaust with the bad muffler? Look at that.
Wow. The single kills it.
The single is in black and the dual exhaust with the turbo mufflers is in red.
Well, as you get restricted in cross-sectional area, what percentage smaller is a single 3 compared to two and a halves?
29%.
Yeah, so I mean, that's a big change in area. So you better make sure if you're going to run the single, you better be very efficient as far as component selection and the merge. And I mean, everything's got to be right to get that kind of result.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, out of a single, that's amazing.
Yeah. So I guess the last question I have is, what do we feel is the crossover point where you need to be looking at this data? Like, I think this engine at 430 horsepower in a normal configuration is the high end of what anybody would be considering using for single exhaust. You know, I'm thinking that most of the guys actually paying attention to this test probably have something more like 300 to 350 horsepower standard cruising truck. I think it still matters.
Oh, absolutely. At wide open, it's going to make a difference.
Yeah. Well, I learned a whole lot more than I expected to.
It was fun stuff.
Yeah, that was
this
cool.
is good.
I love it when we do a test we've never done before.
Yeah.
Man, this is cool. The big thing we saw here is that we ended up making more power with 3-inch single exhaust and a great muffler than we did with 2.5-inch exhaust
I still
and
have to
duals.
I still can't even accept it, Freiburger.
I know.
It has to be true.
It was true, but the thing is, we went into the dyno cell off camera, did a bunch of other tests trying to figure out why, and ultimately, I'm gonna say that we ended up with more questions than we did answers, as we often do. The only takeaways that I have firmly are, I believe you can use 3-inch single exhaust if you have a great muffler, if you've got a Y pipe, and if you've got an engine making less than 400 horsepower.
Yeah, it's a minefield. You got to do it right. And then
Yeah.
the results pretty much speak for themselves.
I think the other questions that we saw about why the 3-inch made more power really has to do with the packaging and what we were able to do on the dyno that you might not be able to do in the car.
We had 3-inch pipe all the way through the whole 3-inch system and 2.5 with the dual exhaust system. So I think the head pipes probably could have helped the single exhaust system, and it was long and it had the merge way back behind the engine, way further for dyno considerations. So it had those advantages for sure.
Yeah, stuff we were able to do in the dyno that you couldn't do in the car. But nevertheless, that was a learning experience. It was way more mind-blowing than I thought it would be from a very basic test.
So Freiburger, question. You've got a street machine, what do you do? 3-inch single or dual 2.5 pipes?
Dulcich. Twice pipes,
Oh,
bro.
yeah, you know it.
Every single
Boom.
time.
Me
Oh,
too.
man, all the love, all the learning, every time on Engine Masters.
I got it, Steve-O.
Good job.
We need el otro cero de mufflerero.
The name of that episode was Steve Wrestled with a Muffler.
Can someone lift this pipe off? My hand's actually being crushed here.
Are you for reals?
Holy. All right, let's do this.
I trusted lies that wore a face. Now I'm the ghost you can't replace. Cut by betrayal, stitched by pain. But now I rise unleashed again. You forged a monster in disguise, but I've become your last surprise. I've got a blade within, cutting through all your sins. I won't break, I won't forgive. This is the way I live. Your kingdom falls tonight. shadowed cries, a warrior born from severed ties. You forged a